Let's take it back to the 20th century. The year is 1925. You're a black child in Mississippi, sitting on a rickety wooden stool next to a basin of lukewarm water. Your mother leans over you, not gently, not angrily, but firmly. She dips a thin, worn washcloth into the water, wrings it out, and begins to scrub your back with a rhythmic intensity. She doesn't talk while she does it. She doesn't need to. This isn't bath time. It's preparation. It's protection. It's something closer to ritual. She tells you to lift your arms. She scrubs your neck. She tells you to open your mouth so she can check behind your ears. This isn't about luxury or relaxation. This is about being clean enough not to be accused. Because even in the privacy of your own home, someone, a landlord, a teacher, a white neighbor, a government inspector, could come knocking. And when they did, your body was evidence. And a bar of soap alone wasn't enough to save you. The rag was. Long before debates about hygiene made their way to social media, long before anyone joked about whether people washed their legs or not, black families in America were already living under a system where the burden of cleanliness was forced onto them and weaponized against them. In 1907, just a year after the infamous Atlanta race riot, health officials ramped up inspections in black neighborhoods. According to the Atlanta Constitution, city health officers labeled black areas as Negro districts, riddled with disease and filth, blaming the residents while refusing to provide running water, proper sewage lines, or city garbage services. The solution wasn't aid, it was punishment. Homes were cited, families were fined. Meanwhile, white neighborhoods with similar sanitation issues received quiet upgrades and none of the scrutiny. Black families took that pressure into their own homes. Washing wasn't casual, it was intentional. Children were scrubbed until their skin shone. You didn't just rinse, you showed evidence. Because in a city where health officials already believed the worst, giving them a reason was not an option. In Louisville, Kentucky, the contradiction became even more blatant. In 1911, the city closed a public bathhouse serving black residents. The reason? Health concerns. No replacement facility was offered. The white bathhouses remained open and fully funded. Not long after, city officials began issuing complaints that black residents were unhygienic, despite taking away the one place they had to bathe. That wasn't an isolated case. It was a national blueprint. Deny access to public resources, then blame black communities for being dirty. So black parents adapted. They didn't just tell their kids to bathe, they enforced it. And not just with soap and water, with scrubbing, with friction, with the cloth. But perhaps the greatest insult, the deepest contradiction, came inside the very homes black women worked in. For decades, black maids, cooks, and nursemaids were the backbone of white Southern households. They bathed white children, changed their sheets, cleaned their kitchens, served their meals. Some even nursed white babies from their own breasts. In some homes, they sat and ate lunch with the white lady of the house. And yet, when their shift ended, those same women were not allowed to eat at the restaurant downtown. They could hold a white baby's head in their hands, but they couldn't use the front entrance of the hospital if they got sick. They could serve food to white families, but were deemed too dirty to share a table in public. The same women trusted with a family's hygiene, nutrition, and newborns were still treated like filth the moment they stepped outside. That's the kind of contradiction that settles deep into the bones, and the kind of memory that gets passed down through silence, through rules, through that washcloth hanging on the faucet. And then came the pandemic. When the Spanish flu broke out in 1918, public health departments in places like Memphis and New Orleans imposed harsh quarantines on black neighborhoods. The U.S. Public Health Service circulated bulletins implying that black people were to blame for spreading disease, using the same coded language. Unsanitary, unclean, Negro districts, while ignoring the fact that most black homes lacked running water, indoor plumbing, or waste removal. No one delivered soap, no one cleaned the streets, but everyone came to inspect. Inside those homes, mothers boiled wash rags in pots and washed their children over buckets. They did it because they had no other choice, and because they already knew the consequences of being seen as dirty. The burden wasn't just to be clean, It was to appear aggressively clean, unquestionably clean. In the Mississippi Delta, during the 1920s, plantation owners and county officials performed surprise inspections on black tenant farmers, not of crops, but of homes. Cleanliness became a condition of staying on the land. WPA narratives documented how entire families were evicted for failing arbitrary cleanliness standards. There were no plumbing systems, no water heaters, but a child with muddy feet could mean the end of your lease. That's the system that shaped the cloth. You didn't trust water alone. You didn't believe in shortcuts. You scrubbed because your home, your body, your dignity depended on it. Even during the so-called progress of the World War II era, the same game played out. In the shipyards of Mobile, Alabama, black workers were finally hired to fill industrial jobs, but immediately framed as the problem. Rumors spread that black employees were unsanitary, that they were spreading illness. But records from the War Department and NAACP complaints revealed the real story. White workers were given clean locker rooms, showers, soap, and sinks. Black workers were assigned the dirtiest tasks and had to clean up in outdoor basins, if they were even given water access at all. Still, when disease spread, the blame didn't go to the white engineers with access to sanitation. It went to the black laborers who were denied it. And what did those workers do? They went home after double shifts and scrubbed their hands raw in kitchen sinks. They told their children to use the rag, not because they thought it was cute or cultural, but because they had lived long enough to know what America does to black people labeled unclean. This is the story people don't know when they mock washcloth culture. This is what's missing from the jokes. It was never just about a rag. It was about being watched, measured, and punished through your skin. It was about having your body turned into a health hazard on paper. It was about being fined in Atlanta for the plumbing the city refused to install. It was about being shut out of a bathhouse in Louisville and then blamed for the stench. It was about being trapped in a pandemic and quarantined in a home without a working faucet. It was about being inspected like a mule, evicted for a stain, and sent back to work to be told you brought disease into a place you weren't allowed to wash in. That's the weight behind a simple washcloth. That's the reason why black parents still say, go back and wash again, and use a rag. They're not being dramatic. They're not being old-fashioned. They're enforcing memory. Because they remember. They remember what it felt like to be called dirty when you didn't have the resources to be clean. They remember what it meant to be blamed while being denied soap, water, and space. And they remember that in America, clean wasn't just about hygiene. It was about safety. It was about control. So yes, to this day, if you grew up black, there's a good chance you were told that running water alone doesn't count. You needed friction. You needed proof. You needed the rag. Not because of the soap, not because of the water, but because of the history. And because somewhere, deep down, the fear is still there. That someone might look at you, wrinkle their nose, and say it anyway. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. This report draws from verified municipal archives, including Atlanta Board of Health records and Atlanta Constitution articles from 1907, 1908, Louisville City Council minutes, and public health records from 1911, U.S. Public Health Service influenza bulletins from 1918, Mississippi plantation records and WPA interviews from the 1920s, and World War II-era War Department labor files and NAACP mobile shipyard complaints from 1942. These documents reveal how Black Americans were targeted, blamed, and punished through public hygiene enforcement that denied infrastructure while demanding perfection. Legal disclaimer. This content is provided for educational, historical, and informational purposes. Scope News presents investigative narratives based on documented records, archival reporting, and cultural scholarship. Interpretations reflect historical patterns of systemic discrimination. This material is not intended to stereotype or generalize individuals or groups. Viewer discretion is advised.